Hey friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is my buddy Mike Grimes. He's going to tell you a story about the spark that led to the thriving East Nashville music scene that we have today, the birth of the slow bar.
The slow bar was a weird spark that was an accidental spark. I call it a spark because I do feel like that you can look now and see that it did set off some things, you know. But really what at the core of it was me and a friend's seeing a place called Shirley's across the street from Woodland Studios, where we had just done a session, and we had talked about, hey, we should start a little beer bar somewhere. That would be fun, right? I mean, not that we really knew anything about how to do it, but we just had the idea hatched, and we walked out of the studio and looked at, and across the street at at the corner of 11th and Woodland was this place called Shirley's, and we went and had a beer. And we were looking around, and we were like, this is awesome little space here. There's like regulars drinking PBRs and actually almost, kind of semi-ne'er-do-wells it looked like, but we felt comfortable there. And I said, maybe this is a spot where maybe this could be our spot if they've been around and they want to give up the business or something. Like I say, complete naivete was at play. So me and my soon-to-be business partner, I said, why don't we just meet over here tomorrow night and check it out again? So we came out on a Friday night and walked in, and behind the bar was Shirley. And I said, Shirley, how long have you been here? She said, 17 years, and I'm ready to get out, and there's somebody who wants to buy it from me and turn it into a Tennessee Titans bar. And I was like, oh. I said, well, if I wrote you a check if I talked to the landlord and wrote you a check right now, could I buy it from you? She said, hell yeah. And I called the landlord. She gave me the landlord's number, and I called him. I said, hey, look, I'd like to take over this space, and Shirley wants to get out. Can we talk on a lease scenario? And he's like, yeah, sounds like a pretty good idea. I mean, just two good old boys talking, and Shirley wanting to get out. I wrote her a check for $10,000, all the money that I had to my name, that I had built up through opening Grimey's in the previous year. Wrote her a check for $10,000. She had a going away party the following Monday, and we were off to the races to build it out a little bit more and turn it into not a live music venue, just a local hang with selling PBRs and having a great jukebox. 4 to 5 weeks later, we were open. So whenever we decided on this business venture, there were many people who were like, what? East Nashville? What are you talking about? It's dangerous. We opened on November 17th, I think, of 2000. And immediately a bunch of people came over because they wanted to support their friends. And, there was no frills. It was like a couple little menu items and beer and a jukebox. But it was something new. And what it ended up being perceived as for a while was a dangerous place for Vandy kids to come over and hang out and drive across the river. There's this place over there, man. It's rock and roll. It's great, man, and it was nuts because we would have, there would be other things going on in town, and we'd get a pop at 2:00 in the morning. We're like, look, there's 75 or 80 people just showed up at 2:00 in the morning. It was this place, go check this shit out. And we were like, wow, this is crazy. It was fun, and it was dangerous because there was a lot of crime in the area, and there was no plan to actually do live music. But I had some friends of mine who called and said, hey man, we had a gig that fell through, and we know this. It's a great party vibe. Could we come play next Friday? And I was like, well, I guess we could give it a shot. And that was my friends Dave Rowe, who played bass with Johnny Cash, and Jimmy Lester on drums, and they were doing all this retro 50s and 60s psychedelic nuggets and rock and roll songs. And I was like, and the place went fucking bonkers. I was like, oh man, and we made more money than we normally did. I was like, oh shit, okay, wait a minute, light bulb goes off. And then Ryan Adams was there recording the Heartbreaker record across the street, and he was hanging out there every night with band members who were friends of mine, just hanging out, writing lyrics and stuff. But the night that happened, basically his bass player comes over and says, "Hey, Ryan wants to come play tomorrow night. Can we come play tomorrow night?" And I'm like, I don't even have a PA. Like, because the band that played that night brought their own PA. And I said, we'll fashion something together. So the next night, Ryan Adams plays, and there's no social media, so nobody knew. You had to know about it. We made a few phone calls, and there was only about 60 people there, but here's Ryan Adams playing a full hour set. I don't even know if it was cover charge. I think he just played. But that began this kind of like, well, maybe we could do a little more live music. And I started getting calls from agents where these little baby bands, needed gigs, and they heard that this was a cool little place to play. So, and it was this weird moment in time where over the course of just a little bit over 2.5 years, we had all these bands before they blew up. We had My Morning Jacket, the Black Keys for $100, and I didn't even want to give them $100 because I was like, dude, I'm booking all these local bands too, and it's killing them. Why would I give you guys $100? It's like, and because I hadn't heard their music, and I get mailed the Black Keys Big Come Up CD, and I put it in. I'm like, oh damn, they're worth $100 for sure. So so the Black Keys, and then we had the first Kings of Leon show, and then we had the Shins, and of course Ryan Adams and the Postal Service, and all this crazy shit. It was like this weird moment in time where, and what happened was, what was not meant to be a live music venue became a live music venue nightly, because once we started doing so many shows, if we didn't have a show, nobody would come anymore. So I was like, oh crap. And that's how I learned to book music, because I was like, now I have to dig around and find locals to play every night and I think that's where, people felt like, okay, here's the new spot where we local bands should play. They're bringing in some of the best up and coming national acts. And it was just a moment in time where I learned to do something that I never planned on that even happening. I mean, as far as some of the earlier people that were part of the fabric of what we were doing, every Monday we did a thing called Juke Joint Monday. That was the legendary Shack Shakers, kind of a loose affiliation, or a loose version of the legendary Shack Shakers. And of course, Chuck Mead was always hanging. Todd Snider was hanging. Yeah, and I'm grateful that Todd Snider specifically is someone that has mentioned the slow bar and me in one of his songs, given credit. It resonates with some people. There are people who come up to me, they're like, Todd put you in that song, man. And remember Justin Towns Earl once said that I need to put up a statue of me or something. I was like, that's cool, guys. Lay it. I mean, I like it, but those accolades come to me just because we were doing something that we were supposed to be doing. It was just organic. It was like, this is something it's happening. It's helping build. It's helped building awareness of East Nashville, and Todd's done it in a major way by the song, and the Slow Bar did it by just doing everyday live music and having a great time. The three most famous people that I remember just kind of dropping by, not having known that they were going to be coming by or anything. The first is like right after we opened. I actually bartended like 3 nights total in the history of any of the places that I've ever been a part of. And I was bartending one night, and James Gandolfini walked in. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't have time to watch TV. I was running businesses. Like Sopranos meant nothing to me. But some gentleman walks up to me and he's like, hey, can I get 2 Budweisers and 2 shots of tequila? And I'm like, hey, we only have beer here, man. He goes, okay, man, well, the 2 Budweisers is cool. So he gets the 2 Budweisers and goes back over to the pool table and was hanging out for about 10 minutes or so and then left. Because they were trying to score Coke. It was like there was no Coke to be had there, So I guess this came up dry, so they took off. The other one of my other favorite nights though was the Juke Joint Monday, which basically had members of the legendary Shack Shakers Jimmy Lester on drums, and Kenny Vaughan on guitar. And they burn it up every Monday. And they became the thing for people to come check out on Monday nights. It was electric every Monday night. And, we would have, 50 to 100 people there. And it was some of the best music that you could hear anywhere in town at that time. And one night, Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers showed up right around the time the show started. He sits down on a bar stool about 15 feet from Kenny Vaughan, and he does not move for over 2 hours. He sat there watching every single second of the show. I'm like, and we're just going, that's Mike Campbell. And he's mesmerized by Kenny Vaughan and by the band. I was like, that was a really cool one. Yeah, and another kind of oddball sighting, but one that I thought was like one of these, like, seeing this guy in the wild, wow, was a night where my buddy Kurt Wagner from Lamb Chop brought Lee Hazelwood over. I don't know the band that they came to see, but there was electricity in the air that was like, that's Lee Hazelwood, man. These boots are made for walking. You know what I'm saying? It was like, whoa. So, like I say, it's fun whenever those guys, you're like, where would you ever see somebody like that in the wild? And somebody brings them in. But that became Nashville. That became, and continues to be Nashville. Everybody's moving here or dropping by or recording or being part of Nashville's musical infrastructure somehow, One night actually was a real sleepy Saturday night. Nothing was going on, but there were some guitars and stuff laying around, and George Harrison had just passed. And so me and my buddy Bill Lloyd and some other friends decided to get up and just play a few songs. And my buddy Jim, who booked talent on the Conan O'Brien show and Saturday Night Live, was dropping by that night, and he had Ray Davies with him. And so basically we played a few songs while Ray Davies was in the crowd watching us. And there wasn't much of a crowd. It was actually 10 people, 15 or 20 people in the building total, with Ray Davies like standing there in front of us. And we knew the song "This Is Where I Belong," kind of a deeper Kinks track. And we invited him to come up and sing, but he politely declined. But I got to play a Kinks song in front of Ray Davies. Yeah, that was fun. The demise of the Slow Bar is what I can only call an organic demise. My naivete basically meant that I invested in some of the wrong people to work with, and my naivete as far as my business inexpertise. I mean, that was easily the biggest and most intense school of hard knocks lesson that I've had in my life. Landlord and lease scenario got out of hand, and a business partner that I had to part ways with, business inexpertise, and our helping build the area. We only had beer, and a couple of places that opened behind us that had a liquor license. So we were providing the entertainment and beer, but people would, before they came to our show, they'd go get a shot at the Alley Cat or wherever, and I didn't have. And as I was trying to figure out a way to continue and get a liquor license and keep going, my lease was up for renewal, and my landlord wanted me out. What it really came down to was like my school of hard knocks lesson that hurt. It really hurt. But it did what seems to be some good, and I can celebrate it, and I do celebrate it regularly, and I'm glad that people recognize it,
If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, subscribe to my channel and tell me down below if you ever saw a show at the Slow Bar, and I'll see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.